BMWs all look amazing and they drive wonderfully, but there's a few select BMWs that you should be considering buying. There's many that I wouldn't even touch with a 150-foot pole, but there's a few key BMWs that are not just fun to drive, but they're actually relatively reliable. Let's get into it now. As I've often said, you buy the specific type of vehicle that manufacturer does best. And electric vehicles is not the place I would go with a BMW. As a matter of fact, they're known for their high revving, naturally aspirated, or high revving inline 6-cylinder engines. And that's why there's a specific engine I would definitely buy, and more specifically a type of car. Any of the modern day BMW M2, M3, M4 cars like this is one of my ultimate favorites, and there's a strong reason for that. It's actually got one of the best engines that BMW currently runs. Yes, look at, you have some great detailing. Of course, the revised version of this car has those beautiful tail lights. Look, quad exhaust tips on this car. This one here is an M2 and it's been restyled, redesigned, and guess what? This latest generation actually carries the same engine under the hood you're finding in some of the M3s, the M4s. That's right, in previous generations all you could do was get a detuned version, but this one here, the M2 latest version, is actually a hot rod. It's one of the best track monster that BMW has. But it's not just about the fun, because the S58 engine, which is a sport tuned version of the infamously reliable B58, this one here actually has much higher levels of tune, much better levels of reliability and performance. Yes, with about 473 horsepower under the hood, you can even get this glorious unit with a manual gearbox. That's right, at a time when you can't even get manuals almost anywhere, you could still find them in the odd car like this, or perhaps even in the odd Porsche 911, because even Porsche fans realized that people wanted to roll their own gears. Now granted, the car's a little boxy, but look at the big flares on the side. Gorgeous. New style handles on these BMWs. Of course, flip away mirrors. They do have the M-type mirrors, of course, with the open fork at the top. This does give you a carbon fiber roof, but it's not just this car that has all this great detailing with obviously high gloss wheels. The interior is full of carbon fiber, contrast stitching, beautiful interior. Look, 6-speed manual gearbox. This car is gorgeous. And all of the latest amenities is given in this car. The M2 is one of my literal favorites. But this doesn't begin and end here, because maybe you want something a little bit bigger. Maybe perhaps you want 4 doors. Well, you can get that in an M3. So you can go with the longer stretch version M4, which gives you 2 doors, but it's a slightly stretched version, a little bit more weight. And of course, it's just what everybody knows, the M4. But then there's the M3, which gives you a sedan. And so the M2, the M3, and the M4 all carries that wonderful engine. And those BMWs have serious strongholds on the performance market, and any enthusiast in their right mind knows that that's one of the best places to go for some of the best driving experiences. I mean, just look at the headlights on this vehicle. Look at the crystal design. Look at the lower section here. Now, the one thing you have to be aware of is that radiator that runs horizontally in the bottom. You've got to make sure that you've got adequate protection under there. But this is BMW trying to get maximum airflow, maximum efficiency and performance into this packaging. The problem is doing that isn't always the most practical. Can you drive in the winter? Sure. But do you want to drive this rear-wheel drive hot rod in the wintertime? Probably not. This is more of a summer toy, and quite honestly, the type of car I would drive in a heartbeat. And realistically, one of the very few BMWs that I'm glad they're still building. The S58 powered BMW M2, 3, and 4. If you're liking the video so far, you're gonna love the rest of the channel. Be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and don't forget the notifications bell so you know when the next amazing videos come. One of the only other BMWs I would still consider buying today, it's the infamous B48, which is one of their most reliable turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinder engine that makes about 250 horsepower. Now, you'll find them in a lot of these great cars. This one here is one of their famous vehicles. This gives you all-wheel drive. BMWs in their 330. You get beautiful LED tail lights, you know, high gloss wheels in a lot of these modern day vehicles. Look at beautiful handles. The interior has all kinds of gorgeous finishing. They give you the wider screen now, and this one's loaded with carbon fiber in it as well. So these cars are highly stylish, beautifully finished, and actually drive exceptionally well. But the best part is, with about 255 horsepower, this 330 BMW is a part of a long list of group of vehicles that I would strongly consider buying. Same thing here, you get more finish, you get all kinds of different detailing. but you can also get it in the coupe format. But the coupe is called something slightly different. We're talking about the 430 instead of the 330. This one here also gives you an xDrive as an upgrade, which is the all-wheel drive. And the 4 Series gives you the coupe format, which essentially is the 2 doors, the stretched out version of what we just talked about with the M2. Look, you get beautiful calipers down there. And again, beautiful interior, nice crafted finishing in here, and a great assortment of different textures and finishing. That B48 is a wonderful piece, and when mated up to the 8-speed automatic transmission, any of these 230, 330, 430, X3s, X4s, as well as the 5 and 7 Series are all mated up to that wonderfully glorious 8-speed ZF automatic transmission, which is one of the best in the business. A lot of manufacturers, from Ram, even Jaguar, a lot of brands are using the same gearbox because it works, it's reliable, it's European, it's stout, and it even kind of predicts your best driving behavior. And quite honestly, anything with that B48 engine is definitely a winner, and one I would strongly recommend that you buy. Some vehicles I wouldn't necessarily recommend are vehicles like this X7 that features the 50i. That's the xDrive. The xDrive is fine. That's the all-wheel drive. Also features that great 8-speed automatic transmission. But some of these vehicles, of course, come featured with the 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8 under the hood. And while they are onto their 3rd generation of the TU upgrade engines, they are a lot better. Unfortunately, that 4.4 is still a very expensive vehicle, an engine to maintain. And if you just scale back a couple of years ago, you know, the earlier generations of that 4.4 had issues with timing chains piling up, fuel injection issues, oil consumption. And these vehicles are a lot better, but they're still going to be very pricey to fix. And I would suggest anywhere you can also get the turbo inline 6-cylinder engine instead of the V8 is definitely the way I would go and recommend for you. Now, BMW's got some other models that aren't necessarily higher on the list. They're sort of in that middle area that if you were to ask me, should I buy one? I'd say if your budget doesn't allow you to go up to a 3 or 4 Series, I'd say go for it. But you know, you look at some of the latest X1s, the X2s aren't necessarily the prettiest vehicles, and predominantly they're based on a front-wheel drive platform, as well as some of their smaller compact cars are also based on those types of platforms where they're predominantly front-wheel drive, and they aren't necessarily the best driving experience. They also have a detuned 4-cylinder engine under the hood, and quite honestly are a lower version of the brand, but they're not the most unreliable. The reliability issues come in primarily the bigger engines, the V8s for BMW. The electrified vehicles aren't all that bad either. And ultimately, if you want something even like a BMW X5, always stick with the 40 Series, which means you get the B58, and you're ultimately going to get something that is more or less durable. But more BMWs I would strongly recommend are anything that powers with that B58 engine. That's their 3-liter single turbo twin scroll engine that produces well over 300, close to 400 horsepower. They're even using that same engine in the Toyota Supra, so you know there's some durability enhanced in there. Here is an example of a vehicle like that. Now, it looks like a garden variety 3 Series, doesn't it? 330, except this one will have M badges. You got the little door handles that are nice, easy access, glossy wheels, LED taillights. You can also get the xDrive, of course, but this one's an M340i, one of the most popular models right now for BMW, and actually a very, very hard model to come by. If you're actually in the market looking for a 3 Series car, that M340i is one of the tough ones to get, because that B58 engine is one of the most reliable workhorses. It's powerful, it's tunable, and it's durable, and everybody loves those vehicles. But you can also get them in other vehicles, X3, M40i, X4, M40i. You can also get them in vehicles like this, and this is one of the best slept on sports cars right now, and also one of my personal favorites by BMW. Look, you get M badging, you get this big beautiful finishing on the front, the grille that really is prominent, M badging, red calipers, beautiful flip away mirrors. This one's a cabrio, obviously, as we cycle around. You actually get yourself a convertible. So you can get a convertible, 3 Series, 4 Series, 2 Series with that engine. You can get a bunch of different SUVs in that engine. And instead of going with an X5, you go with the B58 instead. You know, also some of their smaller subcompact or compact SUVs, anything you can get in that B58 engine, which includes the vast majority, probably 60 to 70% of their lineup has that as either an option or an upgraded engine. The B58 is the engine you want to go with. X7, go with the B58. That's the 3-liter turbo 6. That's the engine you want to go for ultimate endurability. And with all of that said, be sure to check out that video. The only Audis I would even think about buying. Hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.